Transition to Changes Mission podcast show with your host, King Summers.
And your host, Queen Summers.
Thank you again for tuning in to this exciting show with this special guest, King Jay. He's here to spread the knowledge about finance, and just on the first half, we was having a conversation about how things are set up, how important it is for you to work on your credit and your financial stability. So with that, we're coming back with solutions and to talk about a little bit about strategies of how this process can work for you. And to me, I think is finance stability. When you start going on this path, it can establish a more good energy within yourself, meaning that you will become more honest with yourself. Because basically, when you go to a bank or to a person, they have to have trust with you. And that's a process to gain trust with you, especially if you're going in there to ask them about some money. Mm-hmm. And so when you start building your character up to where you want to achieve things and accumulate things in life, you will learn it's all about becoming honest with yourself. Once you become honest with yourself, believing in yourself, that will shine the light onto the next person and they will just work with you. Is that correct, King Jay?
Absolutely. It's right on it. It's definitely a confidence booster knowing that you set a goal and you focused, you was disciplined, and you set out to achieve it and you saw it through.
That is true. That is true. There was a bill sponsored by Senator Tim Scott. He's a Republican in South Carolina. And he stated that there needs to be an alternative scoring model to judge credit worthiness due to the racial injustices in trying to bridge the racial wealth gap. This is why he introduced the Credit Score Competition Act, which would create an alternative model for credit worthiness that would include consistent payments for rent, utilities, and cell phones. For more information on this bill, visit congress.gov and search for S.1685. That's the Credit Score Competition Act of 2017. And I wanted to ask you, King Jay, do you feel like with the current credit scoring model and how it ends up eliminating many African Americans, Latinos, and young people that are otherwise credit worthy, by introducing this bill, would it make them more visible in the credit world?
That's definitely a good question. They definitely will help them get into the credit system and scoring models a lot earlier. Like, because when I was, it was later. Mm-hmm. I think it was like after past 18, more towards 20. But now, with, we didn't have no cell phones. Well, we did have cell phones.
Okay.
The average person didn't really have the cell phones. But like now, everybody got a cell phone.
Right.
Everybody pays their cell phone bill, and then that everything has evolved the way that it has with modern day technology. The earlier you get off into the scoring system by making payments on things there wasn't a scoring system prior to, would definitely help out,
Mm-hmm.
People more educated and aware, because I think now with us being an information age the way that we are, and with everything that's going on, people definitely understand the importance of it, and after being turned down and wanting to do things and told no, you got to go do this and getting denied, and and I think right now, this time with everything that's been happening, the way things are evolving, people are getting a lot more focused and getting a lot more aware, trying to change the situation with it. And that's the starting point.
I totally agree. So, perhaps to our listeners out there, the most important lesson that we've learned from this show tonight is that the overwhelming, stressful, and debilitating feeling that can accompany debt is often compounded by both visible barriers, that's the knowledge, behavior, and structure, and barriers that are harder to detect, such as the racial wealth divide and the history of discrimination in the financial system that created it. But it doesn't mean give up. It means research for a solution. So, King Jay, is there anything that you can provide as far as tips and strategies for our listeners out there who are trying to establish credit?
Absolutely. It's a good question. That's one of the things that we provide at Credit Correct, though, that just paying attention to your payment history, because it definitely affects 35% of your score. And so paying things on time, the amount that's owed, that affects it 30%. How much credit that you have, that you're allowed to use, do you use the whole limit? Because that can be seen as a high risk and you're penalized for that. Okay. The length of credit history, the lack of credit, that affects it 15%. The credit mix is 10%. and new credit items applied for is 10%. So just keeping an eye on that, and some of the tips is, to review your credit report actively, set up payment reminders so things can be paid on time. Because like I said, missed payment can affect you 35%. You can pay bills more than once if you, have the funds available more than once in a billing cycle. Paying it ahead, that's a tip to reduce the interest rate. It's a thing that they say, like on a 30-year mortgage, you make one payment a year, you can pay it off, I think, in 25 years. And it's a thing that we used to do at the dealership, a company, where it doesn't really matter company because anybody can set up, but you have to instruct them because they're not going to set it up on their own. Instead, you do a 60-month car loan at $400 a month for, for 60 months at 18% interest rate. And let's say if it's $300 a month, you can pay $325 or $350. If you pay $300 a month, you're going to pay 60 months at 18%, but you paying $350 or $325 more than the actual amount. It reduces the interest because you pay down the principal a lot more. You see what I'm saying? So that you shorten the term, you save money and interest, and you pay it off a little faster. It becomes a habit to do that. But it's just little tips like that and that information, because they don't tell you to do that, but not just randomly applying for new credit. Don't close the account, the credit card. That said, if you started with a $300 card and you had it and worked your way up and you had it for 2-3 years, keep it, and just continue to use it for gas. Even though if you got someone with more, don't close that account, because that helps with your credit age. Definitely don't max out the cards. You definitely don't want to go over 50%. You want to keep it below 30%. And just things like that, just being actively involved and wanting to do it. I used to tell people, a lot of my clients, that I can't want to fix it more than you. You know what I'm saying? You gotta want to get into that. And that's how I did. I used to have an aunt used to help me out with stuff, and I got to a point I wanted to do it on my own. And I paid the 20 and 30% interest rate, and paying more on that loan, to pay it down, and walking that walk, it's not just stuff I read. I did it myself, just experience. That's how I can just share that information and be able to convey it to the listeners and to the client.
Well, thank you so much.
And do y'all hear that at the door? That's opportunity knocking. And with this show here, with Transition to Change's Mission podcast show, we got King J on the show. Give you the links to get in contact with him. And I would say do your own research. President Joe Biden is erasing $10,000 on your credit debt.
Student loan debt.
And there are all kind of other avenues during this pandemic that we can look into, grab opportunities to make a better path for the future for ourselves. That's why King J is here. And we thank you a lot, King J, so much for being on the show.
Yes, and providing our listeners, and also to us, because I learned a lot tonight, providing us with a wealth of knowledge. And knowledge is power. So hopefully everyone walk away from the show tonight feeling a lot more powerful than before they started listening.
For the African Americans and to the whole globe, we about to go into that African American Black History Month of February. We almost at the end, but like we said, always Black history is all the time, all year long. But here on this segment, we're finna start out with our Black history.
And we'll be talking about Phoenix Pride Federal Credit Union of Phoenix City, Alabama. In a very high poverty county, many rural residents in this eastern Alabama community are self-employed, but small loans to help people start an auto supply shop or a loan service, for example, are often not available from area banks, a need that Phoenix Pride FCU has successfully met for many years. CEO Kimberly Nicholas has brought the credit union from $2 million in assets to $10 million. The credit union makes small loans that many banks shun, especially to local entrepreneurs starting new businesses. Phoenix Pride FCU will lend to the retired guy who wants to do a yard business or someone who wants to start a hair salon. For a $10 million asset credit union, they have 12 employees, has had an excellent financial performance. The credit union is 90 to 95% loaned out and has an ROA of between 1 and 2%. They and other credit unions serving African American unions communities are thriving while also providing access to safe and affordable financial services. Transitional Changes Mission Incorporated celebrates and honors the financial inclusion and economic empowerment work of these credit unions and all credit professionals who does this every month and all throughout the year. Thank you for your contribution.
Yes, and I'm going to say knowledge is the key. One thing about knowledge, it does not have a race, doesn't have no patience, no time bearing. Like I was just explaining throughout this show, I feel like throughout this pandemic, before the pandemic, after the pandemic, there will always be opportunity knocking at your door. Just for you to take the time out to open that door. For the African Americans that's here now, that's reading up on the history, you will learn that you will maybe take a look at it and say, dog, African Americans had a rough path to get to where they are now. But we are here now. And with that being here, we have this opportunity to fix our credit. We got the opportunity to help Transition to Changes Mission podcast show and company to end family homeless. We have the opportunity to be whatever we want. Shouts out to Vice President Kamala Harris for influence all the females or males that would like to be Vice President. Shouts out to President Barack Obama, become the first black African American president.
Yes.
That should influence a lot of African Americans that want to be the president of the United States. It has been done. And so many things in the past have been done by great sacrifice of great leaders that we read about, that we talk about all the time in the month of February. But at Transition to Changes Mission, we can talk about it forever.
That's right. And King J, do you have anything that you would like to contribute to Black History Month?
Absolutely. It's actually for the day, February 26th. It's from a book that I have by Dennis Kimbrough, Daily Motivations for African American Success. And it's the one for every day of the year. But it's for the day. It's called One Size Fits All. It's by Julian Malvex. He's an economist and a syndicated writer. It says, it's a two-way street.